Welcome to NACOM.
In the heart of Griffin, Georgia, just beyond the railroad lines and industrial corridors that once defined the town's economic pulse, stands a facility that few outside the region ever truly noticed. To passersby, it looked like any other large manufacturing plant with concrete walls, loading docks, long parking lots, and the steady rhythm of shift changes. But inside those walls, for decades, flowed the invisible nervous system of the modern automobile. This was NACOM, a plant owned and operated by the global automotive supplier Yazaki Corporation, and for nearly 20 years, it quietly connected Griffin to the world. The story begins not in Georgia, but in Japan. Founded in 1941, Yazaki Corporation grew from a small electrical wiring business into one of the largest automotive suppliers on the planet. As cars became more complex, evolving from mechanical machines into rolling networks of electronics, Yazaki specialized in what most drivers never see: wiring harnesses, junction blocks, connectors, and power distribution systems. These components would become the unseen backbone of nearly every modern vehicle. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, the global auto industry was changing rapidly. Automakers were demanding suppliers build closer to assembly plants, shorten supply chains, and manufacture directly within the United States. Yazaki responded by expanding its North American footprint, and the American South, with its workforce, logistics access, and pro-manufacturing climate, became a strategic focal point. Griffin, Georgia was selected as one of those strategic locations. In the early 1990s, construction began on what would become the NACOM Corporation facility. Designed as a turnkey automotive electronics manufacturing plant, it was built to handle a wide range of processes under one roof. Completed in 1994, the original facility encompassed more than 250,000 square feet, with room for rapid expansion. Over time, the plant would grow to nearly 500,000 square feet, reflecting Yazaki's confidence in both the location and the workforce. From the start, NACOM was different from many traditional factories in the region. This was not textile work, nor raw materials processing. This was precision electronics manufacturing, plastic injection molding, circuit board assembly, metal stamping, and final module integration, all operating within tight tolerances demanded by the automotive industry. Every component produced inside the plant had to survive vibration, heat, cold, moisture, and years of daily use inside a moving vehicle. Failure was not an option. Inside NACOM, the work was constant and methodical. Plastic housings were molded with extreme precision. Circuit boards were assembled and inspected. Junction blocks, the nodes that route power and signals throughout a vehicle, were built layer by layer and tested again and again before shipping. The plant functioned like a controlled ecosystem. Clean production areas existed alongside heavy industrial zones. Quality control was embedded at every stage. Yazaki's global manufacturing philosophy emphasized continuous improvement, process discipline, and employee involvement. Ideas rooted in Japanese production culture, but adapted to an American workforce. For many employees, NACOM represented something new: a stable manufacturing job tied not just to a local product, but to a global industry. At its peak, NACOM employed hundreds of workers, with estimates reaching 800 or more during high-volume years. The workforce included production operators, engineers, technicians, supervisors, logistics staff, and quality specialists. Training programs were established in partnership with Georgia workforce initiatives. Employees were taught not only how to perform tasks, but why precision mattered. A single wiring error could shut down an automotive assembly line hundreds of miles away. For Griffin, the plant became a major economic anchor. It brought international investment into a town long shaped by manufacturing cycles. Booms followed by closures. Prosperity followed by uncertainty. NACOM felt different. It felt permanent. By the early 2000s, NACOM was operating at full stride. In 2004, the company was recognized by the state of Georgia as Large Manufacturer of the Year, a formal acknowledgement of its economic impact, operational excellence, and role in strengthening Georgia's position within the automotive supply chain. The plant embodied a modern manufacturing identity: quiet, technical, disciplined, and largely invisible to consumers. Cars rolled off assembly lines across North America carrying NACOM-made components, yet drivers would never know Griffin. Georgia had played a role in their vehicle's operation. But global manufacturing never stands still. As the automotive industry evolved, pressures increased. Cost optimization, automation, global consolidation, and shifting supplier strategies reshaped where and how components were produced. Like many facilities tied to global supply networks, NACOM eventually faced changes beyond the control of its local workforce. By the early 2010s, Yazaki's operational strategy shifted. Production was consolidated or relocated, and the Griffin NACOM facility was ultimately closed or divested. For the town, the silence was sudden. Parking lots emptied, conveyor belts stopped. A plant once humming with activity stood still. A massive structure filled with echoes of machines, footsteps, and decades of routine. In 2014, the facility found new purpose. The massive former NACOM plant was acquired by 1888 Mills, a textile manufacturer, marking a symbolic return to one of Griffin's historical industrial roots. The building that once produced automotive electronics would once again house manufacturing, albeit in a very different form. The structure remained, but the story inside it changed. Today, NACOM exists mostly in memory. In resumes, in pay stubs, in stories passed between former employees. Yet its legacy is etched into the broader narrative of American manufacturing in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. It represents a moment when global corporations and small American towns intersected, when invisible components built in quiet factories powered the machines that defined modern life. The NACOM plant did not make headlines, it did not build cars, it did not sell products to consumers. But for decades, it connected Griffin, Georgia to highways, factories, and cities across an entire continent, one wire at a time. And though the machines are gone, the impact remains.